What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're looking at pain on the front of the hip that's associated with the hip flexor muscles. So if you've got pain in that region on the front of the hip, maybe you're a runner or you're experiencing it when you're walking as you're moving your leg forward. If you get pain in that region with movements like that, then this is a video for you. So when we're looking at the hip flexor muscles, there's really three primary muscles. One is called psoas major, and I think a lot of people have heard of that. So we've got psoas major, which runs down, it attaches on the lumbar spine and then runs down here and attaches on the inside of the thigh bone, the femur right here on a spot called the lesser trochanter. Some people will actually feel the tendon of their psoas muscle kind of snap. We call it internal snapping hip. So if that's something you experience discomfort with, the exercises in this video can help with that too. So we've got psoas major that comes down. We have another muscle called iliacus that attaches on the inside of the pelvis here and runs down, also helps to flex our hip. And then actually one of our quadricep muscles that runs on the front of the thigh, runs up and attaches on the pelvis, and besides straightening your knee, it can also flex your hip. So when I say hip flexion, what I really mean is this movement of lifting your hip. That's hip flexion, when your knee comes towards your chest. So that happens a lot in running and walking. So as I'm running and walking, every time my leg is behind me and I have to bring it forward, my hip flexors are going to be active to advance that leg so I can take the next step. So this is why we see a lot of hip flexor pain in runners or maybe in people who are doing more walking than they're used to. And usually that pain will be kind of on the front of the hip region, maybe right in the front. It can be a little bit towards the groin, but the thing that you'll notice mostly is that when you flex your hip, it will create some discomfort. There are a number of things that can create pain on the front of the hip, so really you're looking to see, does it hurt when you're contracting those muscles? And if that's the case, then you'll want to try these exercises. So we're going to look at a stretch and then really two strengthening exercises. Most people have seen hip flexor stretches, so I'm just going to show it briefly. And then the thing we really want to focus on is loading and strengthening the hip flexor muscles. Most people don't do that. We all strengthen our glutes, our hip extensors, but most of us don't strengthen our hip flexors. So we'll take a look at two exercises for that. So let's jump into the first one. So for this first exercise, we're going to look at a hip flexor stretch. This kneeling version is one of my favorites. So again, the hip flexors on the front side of the hip. What we're going to do to stretch these is the leg that's down is the one we're going to stretch. So you should feel this on the front side here. To set this up, you want to squeeze your abdominal muscles and your glutes before you do anything. Squeezing those two creates posterior pelvic tilt, which will help to stretch the hip flexors. So first, squeeze your abs, squeeze your glutes, and then what you're going to do is shift forward slightly without extending your back. Try not to hyperextend your low back. So that when you squeeze your abs, it should help prevent that. Squeeze your abs, squeeze your glutes, create that posterior pelvic tilt, and then just lunge forward slightly until you feel a stretch here on the front of the thigh and the front of the hip. You can hold on to something for balance too. And then with stretches, we're going to do 2 to 4 reps and hold for 15 to 30 seconds. Again, looking for that stretch on the front of the leg. If you want to increase the stretch here, you can also bend your knee and grab the foot. Bending the knee will help stretch the rectus femoris muscle, which is the one quadricep muscle that also flexes the hip. So just pick the version that you feel like you get the best stretch with. And again, 2 to 4 reps, 15 to 30 seconds. So the next exercise is our first strengthening one, and it's going to be sort of in a push-up position, which will target our abs, kind of everything on the anterior myofascial line. I'm going to use these core sliders. I'll put a link in the description if you need some of these. They're a great tool for a lot of exercises, including hip flexor strengthening. So what I'm going to do is set these on the ground, and again, I'm going to go into a push-up position. I'm going to put my feet on the sliders, and I'm going to kind of get into close to kind of a neutral spinal position, not extended too much, not rounded, kind of flat like you're about to do a push-up. Kind of tuck your chin in, and then you're going to slide the sliders in, pulling them in. So again, I'm going to work my abs and my shoulders just holding this, but as I draw the sliders in and slide back out, I'm also going to work my hip flexor muscles. So because this is a strengthening exercise, we're going to go for 3 sets of around 10 repetitions, but the key is just to go until you're tired. It may be that your arms are what get tired first, and that's okay. Just shoot for around that 10 repetitions. It's gonna work your core and hip flexors. As you get tired, make sure as you get out here, you don't let your back hyperextend. So keep it in that neutral position and just slide in and out. Okay, so that's our first strengthening exercise for the hip flexors, a slider hip flexor curl. All right, so this third exercise is our second strengthening exercise for the hip flexors. We're gonna use a loop band. This is honestly the best exercise in terms of specifically targeting and strengthening the hip flexors. So if you just choose one of the three, I'd go with this one. So what you're gonna do is take this loop band, you're gonna put it around your feet, kind of around the middle part of the arch, and then hold on to something for balance. This isn't a balance exercise, so it's okay to hold on. And then what you're gonna do is pull your knee up towards your chest, up to about where your thigh is parallel to the ground, and then back down. Basically just go as high as you can, but you can see as that tension, as the band stretches, it puts a lot of stress. It makes my hip flexor muscles work. So I've got to work my hip flexors concentrically to lift my leg and then eccentrically slowly on the way back down. So again, shoot for 3 sets of around 10 repetitions. It could be 10 to 15 repetitions. Just go until you feel fatigue here at the front of the hip. Okay, so with strengthening exercises, you want to try and do them, 3 to 4 times a week. And this is really a good one. You'll notice if you're a runner, I've had this issue in the past, hip flexor pain. When I start adding this to my program 2 to 3 times a week, I'll notice that my hip flexor pain really calms down. Okay, so those are our 3 exercises. You've got a stretch and 2 strengthening exercises for the hip flexors. So give them a try and let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.